What's up, H-Town? Welcome to the Believe in Astros podcast, your home for all things Astros. With your hosts, sports writer Jeff Balke and Astros broadcaster and former third baseman Geoff Blum. Now, here's Balke and Blummer.
What is up, Astros fans? Welcome to episode 84 of the Believe in Astros podcast on the Believe Podcasting Network. I'm back. I'm Jeff Balke, back from vacation alongside my partner, Geoff Blum. We got a day off yesterday and now hanging out in lovely Balmer, as they like to call Baltimore, series with the Orioles. When was the last time we said the Orioles were competitive? But they're good.
Dusty wants to know, too. He made a comment at the White House that kind of set everybody off. We were like, man, that was pretty bold. But, yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. Well, also their announcer mentioned it, and it didn't work out so well for him. We'll discuss that too.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know, dude. We're going to talk about that. That's coming. Blummer, anything happened while I was gone?
Yeah, first of all, congrats on having a vacation.
Thanks,
I don't know what that is yet. I got to wait till maybe after October to figure out what a vacation is. But
right.
I'm proud of you for getting out there and enjoying the great outdoors. Yeah, my off day was not a legitimate off day, but it was pretty exciting because we got to go visit the White House, and it was an absolutely incredible experience. No matter your political view, it was an amazing experience, and the Biden administration took very good care of us. It was a blast.
Yeah, that seems amazing. I'm going to ask you about that here in a second, because it was just like, it was a crazy week while I was gone. I'm wearing my Yellowstone hat, which I picked up while I was there. Irony is I was at Yellowstone with literally zero reception. I mean, my phone said
the trade deadline coming.
Yeah, my phone said 3G. I didn't even think that was a thing, right?
Dude, did you have to use a flip phone?
Basically, yeah. There was an actual regular line, like hardwired telephone in my hotel room, which was
wow.
Which was disturbing. There was zero reception. I didn't even hear about the Verlander trade until one of the guys at Houston Public Media, how I do Mondays, do sports with them. A text of his just randomly got through and said, "Hey, do you want to come on and talk about Verlander?" I'm like, "What about Verlander?" And so that's how I actually found out. So it was a fun week. I did not get gored by a bison, nor did I get eaten by a grizzly bear. I did see both of those things.
Nice.
A grizzly bear fortunately at a very good distance, not anywhere near me. And bison, though, let me tell you something. Those are large animals. Yeah. And when they walk by your vehicle, you don't really feel safe. I'm just saying.
Now let's go back like a couple of 100 years and imagine coming over a ridge and going,
yeah,
that looks interesting. I'm going to go the other way.
And they're not slow. They may look slow. They are not slow. This one walked right in front of my car, and I guess I got a little too close to him. I wasn't that close. He literally turned and side-eyed me, and I thought, damn. I'm just gonna go backwards now. So it was a fun experience out in the. And by the way, 70-degree weather, which was, I mean, coming back to this. Somebody referred to this as Satan's butthole the other day. And I can't necessarily disagree with them because it is hot down here. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and YouTube. You can give us a follow on X, I guess, and also on Instagram. You can find at Believe in Astros. You can find me at Jeff Balke Blummer at Blummer27. Thanks for everyone who's given us 5 stars and sent us questions and all of that. We really do appreciate it. Like, was Framber's no-hitter the closest thing to a perfect game we've seen? I mean,
yeah,
face the minimum.
That or Yu Darvish's back in 2013 or 14.
Right. I mean, just kind of an amazing thing. Let's just jump right in and talk right about the trade deadline. I think we forgot that Kendall Graveman was actually traded for Corey Lee. I think that's probably going to be really helpful to their bullpen. But obviously, the big deal: Justin Verlander for Drew Gilbert and Ryan Clifford, a pair of their young, fast-tracked outfielders. Adding Justin Verlander and also Jose Urquidy returning from injury this weekend. I mean, that's got to do nothing but good things for the rotation. I mean, Verlander walks right back in steps right back in where he's always been. And the irony is kind of the same in that he pitched amazing and he got no run support. So it's kind of a weird sort of symmetry to that. But I mean, adding him back, it's just, I don't think you can underestimate the importance of something like that.
Yeah, he's been amazing, and he is the modern day Nolan Ryan. If you go back and look at Nolan Ryan in those mid to early 80s teams with the Houston Astros, where he has a 1.7 ERA and has more losses than wins, it just isn't fair sometimes. And part of the reason Justin came back here is because he wants to rack up wins. He wants to get as close to 300 as he possibly can. And you're going to need some guys to score some runs, because you give up 3 runs, usually you should win a game. But he came back in a pretty dramatic fashion at Yankee Stadium of all places. And we kind of got to see what has made Justin good over the years is that there was a hiccup. He couldn't find the strike zone, didn't lose his poise, found it, continued on, got himself a quality start, but just didn't qualify for the victory. But everybody at the time that you missed out on was freaking out because you gave up Ryan Clifford. We know we love Drew Gilbert. We wanted to see what he could do in the show, but at the same time, Clifford was that key piece. And from everything I've heard, there was not going to be a trade done with anybody of caliber that wasn't going to involve Ryan Clifford.
Right.
The upside is we don't know what Clifford is going to be as a big leaguer until he gets there. And Justin's going to be here for another year, if not one more.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to see Drew Gilbert in an Astros uniform. I thought he was going to be exciting and fun, but the fact of the matter is the Astros are overloaded with outfielders in the minor leagues. It's part of what Dana Brown's strategy was. What we can tell is Jacob Melton, who's another one of those young rising outfielders, is very, very good as well. And you still have guys like Pedro Leon at Sugarland, who has really kind of started to turn his season around after kind of struggling a bit. The Astros have a lot of those guys. That's what allows them to make a deal like this. And honestly, if Justin Verlander helps them get deep into the postseason, perhaps too, and winning another World Series, then nobody's going to care. And my colleague at the Houston Press, Sean Pendergast, has a story he's working on about how really the trades with the Astros, it shows that these draft picks are kind of a crapshoot. You look back at previous trades, you don't know what's going to happen with some of these guys. Some of these guys turn out to be great. Sometimes they don't. And so it's the price you pay. I saw somebody on Twitter. I reconstituted it for myself in that if you're going to get a major, rotation guy or somebody like Justin Verlander, you have to give up something that hurts. That's just the way it works. You're not getting anything for free. That's not how it works. And look, JV just went straight legend mode when he got here. First of all, referring to the Rangers as Dallas, and then showing up to the White House in a gold suit. I mean, just right into it, like no problem. He just fits.
That's what he does. Yeah, it's outstanding.
He just completely fits this team. That's the thing. Even after half a season away.
I just want to build off one point you said about some of these guys, these draft picks are crapshoots. If you go back and look at some of the previous trades, I know there's guys with Detroit that, when we first got Justin Verlander, some of those guys are getting released out of those organizations, not even sniffing the big leagues. Yeah. Same with the Arizona Diamondbacks. There was a key piece in that Greinke trade who just got designated. So it's a gamble, like you're saying, and you really need to reaffirm that. And I think that there's a lot of, maybe not a lot these days, but there are particular groups of owners and GMs around the league that will say, give me proven big league talent as opposed to young possible talent.
I agree with you completely on that. And I think it's also the difference between what you're trying to accomplish. When you look at the Astros, they're a winning team right now. Their window is completely wide open. They just won a World Series last year. They're certainly in the mix to compete for one again this year. And I think Dana Brown, said it right. Both Graveman and Verlander, they're both locked up after this year too.
Yeah.
So you can assume that that's going to help them in dealing with free agency as well. And the closer we get to the bigger names hitting the market, like Alex Bregman and some of these other big and Framber Valdez, the more you're going to need this type of thing to build not only from within, but also to have guys that are going to be here to help you stay stabilized. Just part of the deal.
Isn't it interesting? Isn't just a little food for thought, maybe stirred up a little bit? Isn't it interesting that you trade away 2 outfield prospects, yet Kyle Tucker is still here? Maybe that foretells the future of what they might try and do with Kyle.
Well, I think you make a really strong point because look, Drew Gilbert, they said it very, very, very bluntly that Drew Gilbert projects as a right fielder, and we have a pretty good right fielder right now. I mean, listen, that to me, that statement from Dana Brown, that's about as direct as you get, you know. And the Astros, look, they've made it clear they want to bring Kyle Tucker back. How much they're going to spend on it is going to be another story. And then obviously we have Framber Valdez wins AL Player of the Week. He goes out and just destroys. I mean, it's Cleveland, you know, but
and the
still,
timing of it was ridiculous.
I mean, just the day of. I mean, you couldn't have a better Astros day than that one. What did you see from him? I mean, Framber struggled. He scuffled a little bit the last few games. And granted, again, it is Cleveland, but nevertheless, he really was in command that whole game. I actually saved it when I got back. I watched it again after watching the highlights. He was in command. There was no threat whatsoever, another million ground ball outs, but just really impressive by him, no matter who the team he's playing.
Yeah, it's been impressive to watch, and it's good to see him have that bounce. You wanted him just to have a bounce back performance, just go out there and win the game, give another quality start. And I think we all would have been happy, but it was just the perfect storm because he needed to have that bounce back opportunity. He's facing a team that's not good on left-handed pitching. He's facing a team that is terrible on spin. And he found that in that moment, his curveball came back to him. And that's what kind of turned me on a little bit early on. And not to mention the Guardians had traded away half their team with Savali, Josh Bell. They had 3 different lineups that day because guys were hurt. They're leaving, it was packing up. So there was chaos in that Guardians dugout. And Framber, took full advantage of that. But the thing that jumped out to me was the first inning. You go, okay, he showed good command like you're talking about, was hitting his spots. But then that snap on that curveball came back and you're kind of going, that looked pretty good. Came out the second inning, struck out 2 more guys in that second inning. And I looked at TK and I didn't say it was going to be, this is his day. I said, the curveball's back. And I looked at the RPMs on Baseball Savant and it showed a little bit of an uptick in the spin. And I was like, okay, it wasn't anything astronomical where you were like, oh my gosh, there's something going on. It was just right back to normal and just a tinge above what he normally does. And he went to it and it was the swing and miss and it was perfectly located. And, he proceeded to go out there and throw that no-hitter, and it was absolutely incredible, except for one pitch to, I believe, Oscar Hernandez on a 3-2 count. And I mean, he was that close.
I know, exactly. And then they get a double play, and he faces the minimum.
Yeah,
unreal. You nailed something, and I heard you mention that in the broadcast. I thought it too. That curveball just looked wicked. I mean, it was wicked. It was just breaking, it was just dropping off the table. And obviously that's a good sign if you're the Astros. I mean, look, if you have a righty and a lefty aces in there, I mean, it just makes it that it's when you get to the postseason, we've seen what they can do in the postseason.
Well, I love that. Yeah. From on JV day, we got Justin Verlander. Framber went, hey, still here. Yeah, I'm pretty good. And like you said, when you go in, you've got 2 aces now.
I kind of wonder if that wasn't at least. I mean, look, he is like
I hope it was. I think that's great.
We know that Framber has a very fully mature, developed ego to him in a good way, not in a bad way. So great. I think that was good for him. Good for and frankly, good for the Astros. Competition is a good thing. We'll take it. You mentioned visiting the White House yesterday. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. Houston Press photographer Jackson Gorman was actually there.
Nice.
He got credentials, went on his own dime because he really wanted to experience it, which was great. I know, right? Good
for him.
And the slideshow is up at HoustonPress.com. It's pretty amazing. So have you made this visit to the White House before? Or this wasn't your first time, right? You've never done it before,
This is my first time. I got that question from everybody because obviously '05, still rings in the ears of Astro fans.
Right.
And the assumption was that I was going to go with the Chicago White Sox,
Right.
and I did not, because in 2006, I signed back with the San Diego Padres.
Right.
So I wasn't available to leave my current team to go party at the White House with my former team.
Right.
And then in after the 2017 season, the Astros left from spring training to go to visit the White House. And obviously I was back in Houston. I wasn't in spring training. So this was my first opportunity, and it went absolutely incredible. It was a little bit of a long day, but it was worth every minute of it.
That is super cool. That's an experience. I mean, just visiting. Listen, I'm not like a hyper flag waving, person at all, but Washington D.C. is awe-inspiring. It is one
Yes.
the last time I
One
went,
of the greatest visits I've ever had. I mean, family trips was when I took my kids to DC when they were about 10.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I mean, last time I was there, I have family that lives there. Actually, my wife and I are gonna be there visiting her aunt in November. I love the city. My cousin Tom lives there and is a great guy. And he used to be a docent at the Smithsonian. So riding around with him in his car is like hanging out with a historian. So like he just tells you everything there is to know about it. And the last time I went to the Hall of Records so I could see the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and all that stuff. And then I went to the Smithsonian for like the third time, because you can only see part of it each time. It's so huge. I'm not going to lie. I was awestricken, especially to walk through that and see the Constitution, Declaration of Independence. It's something every American really should do, regardless of your politics, regardless of your feelings. On the whole, it's just an incredibly, awesome experience, and really one to be able to go to the White House and experience that must have been just incredible.
It was, that was the one thing that I did not, with all the tours and like everything that we did when I came with my family, about 10 years ago, obviously things change a lot, but going through there and just witnessing the history and understanding how this place was established and all the monuments and, the struggles and the pain and the scars that developed here, and witnessing that and trying to wrap your head around it and understand it a little bit more is absolutely incredible. Obviously, like franchises and family, there's going to be highlights and lowlights, but you gotta read them all to understand how you get to this point.
Yep.
But we'd never had a chance to get to the White House, and going through that whole experience was incredible. The one thing that kind of surprised me, and I don't know if I'm not a conspiracy theorist and I'm not like some CIA operative or anything like that, but I was amazed at how easy it was to get in. All I had to do was show my driver's license and go through like a TSA, X-ray machine. I'm like, man, there's got to be more to this. But I imagine that, I'm sure they've got a full body scan of me hanging in the security lounge now or something. But it was easy, and it was kind of funny to realize that at every turn or every corner of that White House, there was somebody with a military uniform standing there.
Let me tell you something. It is no joke. That
operation is incredible.
I've never been to the White House, but I'm telling you, the just around DC in different places, the ninja-like level of security is remarkable. Like that's one thing you don't really see, and but that's the point. You're not really supposed to see it. They're all supposed to blend. It's impressive. You don't want to mess around in a place like that. That's like,
no,
just don't. It's just not. Save yourself.
Yeah. Be careful.
Enjoy
the experience, but be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool that you got to experience that. That's awesome. So we got Jose Urquidy back. He only went 3 1/3, piggybacked with JP France. I mean, it's going to take him a little bit of time to stretch out, I think, but adding him to the lineup in Verlander is such a big deal, especially if Urquidy can eat some innings, because that's one of the things that he really does is he's an innings eater. It's got to help, right? And also JP France, look, arguably has been their most consistent pitcher for like 2 months now. So you can't just omit him from the rotation. It's makes for an interesting decision-making process for Dusty and Dana Brown.
Oh, man, are you kidding me? Yeah, I think it makes it very interesting. And I mean, they did respect Jose Urquidy as far as the veteran coming back into the rotation and didn't give him JP's spot, but he definitely moved in front of JP and moved JP into the bullpen. But to JP's credit, kind of understood the situation, took it, went to the bullpen, got ready, came in, pitched a great game again.
He did.
Throwing, 3 1/3 shutout, I think he did. And Urquidy he looked great for the first 3 innings, but kind of struggled to find his command a little bit later in the game, maybe fatigue setting in. And again, throwing pitches in the minor leagues is a little bit different for a big leaguer. So the intensity, the leverage, that fatigue will set in a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
But Urquidy looked good when he was in there hitting the strike zone. His slider actually looked a little bit better to me. So I'm kind of curious to see how that slider looks moving forward.
Yeah, that sweep, that big sweeper, right? Isn't that whatever they call it now? That was a good looking pitch. I agree.
Yeah. And Booney put a bunch of right-handers in there because he knows that Urquidy struggles against right-handers. But Urquidy, to his credit, really did a good job of driving the fastball to the inside corner to set up that slider that sweeps across the zone. But at the same time, it's going to be interesting to see how they set up this rotation, because you need to protect Hunter Brown. You need to protect JP France.
Yes.
You've obviously got to get Urquidy going again. But at the same time, you can kind of massage this rotation down the stretch with some of these days off to either go a 6-man rotation, skip a guy if you need to, and kind of work it that way to make sure that these guys are healthy through August, through September. And obviously we hope they're healthy in October, because then you have some interesting choices to make.
Well, I wrote about it in a story I wrote for the press today, just talking about how, Christian Javier is approaching the most innings he's ever pitched. JP France
him too. Good point.
JP France is approaching his. Hunter Brown has already exceeded his. So these guys have already hit their career marks or are close to hitting their career marks in innings pitched. Being able to, like you said, to skip a guy occasionally, go to a 6-man rotation so they don't have to pitch every 5 days. That's going to be helpful for them as we go down the stretch, I would hope. By the way, did you see Boone go crazy yesterday? I mean, listen, man, dude. Points for drama. Like, let's give him an Academy Award. I mean, when he demonstrated the strikeout, I mean, that was just
perfectly to Laz Diaz's.
So priceless. It was so priceless. And Diaz was just like, go. And he was going to get his money's worth. I mean, that was impressive.
Yeah. No, Laz Diaz is one of the better ones that you can actually talk to, and he's going to have good days, bad days, just like all of us. But at the same time, I think at the end of the game, he missed 21 calls.
Yeah.
So, it kind of reinforces Booney's dramatics, but Booney went out there and did a phenomenal job. And I think that, it might have been an explosion of emotion considering his team was losing. They're in a tough spot. They didn't do anything at the trade deadline.
Right.
Judge is hurt. They're going to end the season without a guy with 75 or more RBIs, which is remarkable to me. And he's kind of scuffling through the situation, but he lost it in glorious fashion. That's almost, I would imagine that's every manager's dream, is to go out there and do that. But to Laz Diaz's credit, I'm surprised Aaron Boone or Dusty Baker didn't lose it in the Yankee-Astro game with Angel Hernandez behind the plate, who missed 23 calls.
Oh, man. I mean, Angel Hernandez.
Woo!
That guy, what is he? Does he have, like, compromising photos of the commissioner? Like, what is
I don't know.
I mean, I know that he, like, sued the league. I know that's already happened.
Twice, I think.
And it's like, that guy is horrible. I mean, horrible. He is just awful. But yeah, the Boone thing was great. It was just such fun theater, and then almost as good as the fight the other day, which I don't think I've ever seen a guy like. I don't ever think I've seen a guy go down the way that what's his name went down. I mean, he took a shot.
Elvis Andrus would argue with you about that.
Oh well. Fair enough.
He's witnessed the 2 greatest knockouts in baseball history.
It's true. But just like his arms went dead at his side, and he just like this. That was
Yeah. At least Jose Batista, when Rougned Odor smoked him, he kind of like spun him around, but he didn't go down.
No.
Tim Anderson.
And
the call by Tom Hamilton.
Oh, amazing. Absolutely.
I mean, you talk about the dramatics of
down
Boone
goes
and then the marriage.
Anderson. Down goes Anderson. It was just
spectacular.
That was second only to when Kevin Harlan called that the streaker running on the football field when he was going, he's at the 10, he's at the 5. He's like, that's only second only to that. Is it really? He's like,
that was amazing.
It was fantastic. That was just, if you haven't seen it, go online. They have the audio of it synced up to
there's so many great things in that video. I mean, it sounds terrible saying that about a fight because you don't encourage that.
No.
But at the same time, the umpire that tried to get in the middle and then all of a sudden he was like, their hands are up and he's like, I'm out.
Exactly.
He ran out of the way and then all of a sudden just this haymaker comes.
I've never seen anybody square up though. That was the funny part. They're like, all right, let's go. And they look like, they're like, what are y'all doing? You're on a baseball diamond in the middle of a game. And Anderson,
all of a sudden I was in the middle of Little Woodrow's at like 2 a.m.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, Anderson, not only did he get the worst of it on the field, but he got the worst of it in the suspension department too.
I know.
Because he was making the hard tags that sort of caused that in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But
if you watch that replay well enough, everybody's like, why did J Ram get up? He smoked him in the head.
He did. I looked at before. Yeah, somebody posted that in slow motion to show that tag, and they posted a couple of others. Yeah. They showed a couple others. He's like whacking the crap out of people in the head with his glove. That can't feel good. And so, that guy wasn't having any more of it. And the worst part for Anderson, to add insult upon injury, was the swing it was just a flail. He wasn't even really trying to hit him in the face. He was just swinging like this. Just takes a swing and just, oof. That is no bueno. I would not want to be that. I would not want to have taken that one on the chin. That did not look like it felt very good.
No. And then did you see the post fight when he was stumbling off the field, like his teammates were trying to carry him? Oh, that didn't feel good at all. I felt terrible about that.
I mean, don't want anybody getting hit in the face for any real good reason. Yeah. Other than, it was bad, but it was fun to watch. I mean, and unfortunately, no one was seriously hurt.
The White Sox season has been a disaster,
especially Anderson. There was a story about him just the other day. I was listening while I was up there in the mountains. I did have satellite radio, so I was listening to one of the MLB guys, and they were talking about whether Anderson was going to be traded or not. And they talked about how his season has just been awful. That he, they ran it down. It was really ironic that I was listening to it, considering the fight that would happen. He's just had a brutal season and a really, great player, but just,
hyper talented
has not been good this year. So I think that I want to talk a little bit about Graveman's spot in this bullpen. The bullpen has been kind of all over the place. Phil Maton and Ryan Presley lights out early in the year. Now I've really struggled. I mean, Maton over like his last, I think 12 appearances has like a 6+ ERA or something crazy like that. Presley didn't even get the call to close the other day. He's sort of, obviously he's struggling a little bit. On the flip side, Rafael Montero suddenly looks good again, and Brian Abreu looks good again, having bounced back. So
I got a great Brian Abreu story, by the way, when we're done talking about this.
Yeah, so I can't wait to hear that. So Graveman, though, I feel like he kind of like helps to come in and just sort of give these guys a break. Just like Graveman's, he's closed some ball games before, so they have the ability to use him for that. You don't have to put Stanek out there all the time, who's been struggling all season long. I mean, I think it's kind of an underrated move by the Astros to get that to really help sort of shore up what's been a really great bullpen all year long.
Yeah, and one of the things about these two trades the Astros made is they brought back guys who have been in this clubhouse, and I think that's fascinating because
it really is. That doesn't happen.
You're always worried, right? You're always worried about chemistry, and you brought back two guys that worked in this clubhouse and won in this clubhouse. So I think that's one of those underrated kind of moves, because you look at the stats and you're like, Graveman's good, Verlander's good. Okay, we upgraded, and I think, what you said about giving that bullpen a break is exactly what happened, because I think the day he showed up, you almost heard this collective sigh in that bullpen where they all went, whew, we got another one. Okay, we're good, right. Because up to this point, Montero and Stanek haven't been who they were in the past, and it's put that much more pressure on Maton, Neris, Abreu, Presley. Those guys have been the four horsemen out in the bullpen. Fortunately, Abreu he had a little bit of a dip, but he bounced back, and that dude is throwing 101 miles an hour, sliders off the table. Wow. Presley was sore, didn't appear in that Yankee series for whatever reason, but Abreu threw an inning and a third to save that game, which was beautiful. Neris has been absolutely lights out, even though he has base runners on every single time he's in the game, which is crazy.
His command is nuts right now, but yeah, he gets out of everything. It's wild. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, I'm sitting there, I've got a death grip on my headset going, come on, man. And he still gets through it. So it's been good, but Graveman's going to be good because I think of what you said is when he was with the White Sox, he was saving games when Liam Hendricks was out.
Right.
So he has some of that late inning experience, and then he also has the versatility. And I think this is where I'm kind of curious because Maton's been getting beat around, and Maton just seems to be automatic. He's the first guy out of the bullpen, no matter what the score is, where the runners are at. Dusty's like, Maton, and he comes out, and he either has a good outing, bad outing. But I think it'll give him a little relief because Graveman he's so versatile, and he has the personality of just give me the baseball, I'll go out there and give it my best shot. And when he's able to command the zone like most pitchers, he is wipeout because his wipeout sinker at 96 miles an hour. Now, the only thing that kind of stuck out to me was his ground ball rate had gone down a little bit.
It has.
But he did get a big ground ball double play, last time he was out against the Yankees. So I think it's still in there, and I think that Josh Miller can actually get that sinker back to getting the ground ball, and he'll be a huge piece to getting Graveman back. But Graveman can pitch anywhere from the 6th to the 9th, and that's what I think is great about him. And it does give that bullpen that little sigh of relief.
Yeah, Graveman, that's the thing that I keep thinking too, is every time a pitcher shows up here, suddenly they become much better.
Yeah, we kind of forget that, don't we?
They just always do. And I think you're right. I think, Graveman's traditionally been more of a kind of an even pitcher in terms of ground balls, fly balls. He's not a guy that's been giving up lots of fly balls. He's kind of been pretty much even across the board with that. He's got that sinker, like you mentioned, which tends to induce the ground ball. I think you're right. I think I read something about him at the trade where they were saying that, when he misses, he's been missing up. And so you kind of think he gets in here with that Astros pitching staff and they're going to be like, okay, if you're going to miss, let's miss down, miss in the dirt. If you're going to miss, so
for him.
So let's hear this Brian Abreu. I love good stories.
Oh man. So I take a lot of pride in still trying to be in some kind of shape, or at least look like I'm trying to stay in shape. I still get in the gym. Obviously, I can't run like I used to. I don't swing a bat anymore. So a lot of the movements I have are very push, pull, just strike, just so I feel like I'm healthy. And I'm 6'4", 240 pounds. I'm a little bit bigger than most people. And we were on the team flight coming to Baltimore. And the way the seating rearrangement had guys in the front, media was in the back. So I went back to go talk to Steve Sparks and Matt Bolts, the radio engineer, and we're just kind of chopping it up. And I had my back turned to the aisle, and I went to go back to my seat. So I go to turn to my right, and all of a sudden I hit something that felt like a wall, and I stopped. Now, not much stops me on the team flight because I'm larger and I have a tendency to not know the size of my body. My wife says I'm a bull in a china shop everywhere I go. So I turn around and I'm like, bam. And I'm like, what the fuck? I turn around and I'm like, dear God, Brian Abreu is a massive human being. I don't know if it translates on TV, but his shoulders are so freaking wide, and he is stout. He's built. And he stopped me like that. And I was like, I'm sorry, Mr. Abreu, you can go by. And I was very polite about the whole situation. I was like, man, I'm sorry, bro. You can go. I'll wait for you. Yeah. He stood me up, man. It was awesome. And that's what I've always had an appreciation for him and his size, but when you actually hit it, and you stop, you're like, damn, okay.
Wow, Blummer. Well, look, that's when you run into somebody that's larger than you. I'm not exactly a small dude.
No.
And I'm 6'1", and so I'm taller than a lot of guys. But when you hit somebody that's built like that, and it's happened to me like at the gym or playing basketball, You run into somebody. Like I ran into a guy playing basketball, and he didn't move, and I just went backwards. I was like, I'm running,
like,
I'm running full speed, and this guy just stood there. I'm like, holy crap! And it's always reminds me of that story that Tiki Barber told about what it's like to be hit by a linebacker when you're running full speed as a running back. And he said, imagine taking off all your pads and just running full speed into a brick wall. Damn. And I'll never forget that and thinking, oh, good Lord. So you got your brick wall.
Yeah. Brian Abreu's that guy. And he's all of 6'4" also, but but obviously he's in much better shape.
He's a tad younger than we are, Blummer also.
Yeah. But he was just, I mean, it stunned me. I was like, dang. All right. I'm like, Mr. Abreu, you can go.
That is better at least than the guy I sat next to coming home who took off his shoes and socks.
Dude.
Smelled a little weird. And
what's wrong with people on planes these days, man?
And
cleaned
proceeded also to scratch his crotch for numerous times. And I'm like, bro, like let's not,
bruh.
All right, we did learn yesterday that one of my favorites, Corey Julks, is going back to AAA. He's been struggling a bit lately, but to bring up Jon Singleton. Now, I want to talk about
who knew.
I realized that way back. I mean, I don't know how many months ago, we cracked a joke about Jon Singleton on here. I haven't found it yet. I need to go back and dig through, see if I can find it. But then we made a little crack about how, great at the minor leagues, never good at the major league level. Now, to his credit, he is really he has been insane in Sugarland. I mean, just nuts. It's like 33 games. He's like had 12 home runs. He's just been all over the place. The question is, bringing him up brings up a couple of questions. Like, first of all, is he going to be able to play at this level, especially not getting consistent at bats, which he certainly would at AAA? But then the other thing is, how's it going to affect a guy like Yainer Diaz? I mean, the only positions that he plays are first base and DH. And so you've got to figure if they're going to play him, it's going to eat into Yainer's time, especially because they definitely want another left-handed bat in the lineup. And obviously the pitcher whisperer, Martin Maldonado, they're not going to be splitting time with him.
Nope.
So I'm just wondering how this is all going to work out lineup-wise. I mean, this is the right time of year to try it. But do we have faith that Jon Singleton's going to come up here and provide some power from the left side? What do we think?
First of all, what you said about Yainer splitting time behind the plate, forget it. I'm with you. Just go ahead and wash that from your brain. Don't even argue it. Don't even think about it. Waste your time on it. Martin Maldonado is going to catch games.
Yep.
So you're going to have to pick your spots with Yainer, who catches Hunter Brown extremely well. Maybe he works in with an Urquidy. I'm not sure. But just go ahead and mail in the fact that Maldonado's a catcher. And now you've got, like you said, DH or first base. There might have been an opportunity to try and massage him into first base a little more frequently with Abreu struggling because currently, according to Chandler Rome's tweets, he has more extra base hits than Jose Abreu. So he increases your, if you want to get analytic, win probability by having his offense in there. And, what are you willing to sacrifice defensively for more offense? What are you willing to sacrifice offensively for more defense? Those are the questions that managers ask themselves. Then you get to the Jon Singleton factor. First of all, I'm frustrated for Corey Julks. I hate when guys get sent down after struggling because it's such a kick to the groin because you're already struggling. And then they're like, well, we can't use you anymore because you're not playing well. And they always give hey, go down, figure it out. Whatever.
Agreed.
It's hard just because I love Corey.
Me too.
So Jon Singleton's coming. He earned the right to come up here. In those 30 games that you're talking about, I believe he had over 1,000 OPS. I looked at the strikeout to walk ratios. It's not awful. He takes his walks. His strikeouts aren't as egregious as you think they would be for a power guy. He had a 3-year hiatus trying to figure it out and fight back into the game. And here he gets his opportunity again. Granted, he had a chance with the Milwaukee Brewers. It was brief, but he didn't let it phase him, came over to the Astros, started raking again. And here it is, the opportunity. What if this becomes a platoon at first base? Is that an idea? I'm not sure. But there's going to be a point where you have to figure out if Jon Singleton can produce at the big league level because he's done enough at the AAA level. Is he the guy that's stuck in purgatory and plays quadruple A?
Right.
I don't know. But the way you figure it out is you let him play a little bit here early on and see if he can do some damage. And the other thing is, who's the threat off the bench for the Astros? Yes, if it's Yainer Diaz on the bench, he's the threat. But other than that, who have you got? Yeah. And I think Singleton provides Dusty Baker a left-handed threat off the bench.
Yeah, that's a good point. And of course, Dubon has not been playing very well lately. He's kind of fallen back down to earth a little bit. The thing that's interesting to me about this, and you've talked about this on here before, is the consistent at-bats. When guys don't get consistent at-bats, like Yainer Diaz, if he doesn't get consistent at-bats, is that going to cause him to struggle? I personally don't think so. I think Yainer is the kind of guy that he'll just come in there and he seems to play well, whether he's catching, playing first base, or DHing. It doesn't really seem to matter.
Pinch hit, whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Obviously, it has some impact on Dubon, apparently. It was definitely having some impact on Corey Julks, the lack of consistency.
Yeah, man.
Which just sucks because I really, really like Corey Julks a lot. I'm going to be very curious. I mean, I know fans were calling for Jon Singleton, but, fans, this has been a weird year for fans, too. There's been a lot of, like, do this, do that, do this, manipulate this, manipulate that. The Astros end up kind of in the same place. And I feel like it's funny. I understand impatience in sports like football where there's only, 17 games or whatever in a season. I don't really get the impatience in baseball. It's too long of a season. There are too many twists and turns. I get it if somebody's losing you games, if every time you go in there, a guy's giving up multiple runs from the bullpen or something like that. But for the most part, in baseball, you just kind of ride it and see how it goes, especially with a team that's full of veterans like this. I will say, good news, Yordan and Jose Altuve are just on tears. Like, if anybody was worrying about, it's going to take them a little while to get, back to normal, well, forget all of that. I mean, my goodness. I was looking at those numbers yesterday. Since coming back in the 10 games back, Alvarez is slashing 361, 439, and 750. His OPS is 1189. And Jose Altuve's OPS is 973. He's hitting 333. He's got a 409 on base. Nobody needs to worry about those guys at all.
Nope.
And thank God for that. I mean, we've said they only
and he
played...
finally moved back to the 3-hole. Golly, man.
Right.
Sorry.
I know, Blum. We've been talking about this weird lineups and stuff all year long. It's just going to continue. Like you said, you've just kind of got to be zen about it.
What is it? Moose Fraba or whatever it was from that movie with Adam Sandler. Who's Jack Nicklaus? Moose
Fraba. Nice. I
don't know.
That's awesome.
Dude.
Oh my God. Okay. Couple final things. First of all, I do want to bring up this thing with the Orioles. So they're play-by-play.
I don't cuss on this podcast as much, but that was bullshit.
Yeah, it was 100% bullshit. So Kevin Brown, not the pitcher.
Thank God.
Yeah, no, that would have. I don't know. Who knows what happened? You throw a sinker at the guy. This play-by-play announcer for the Orioles on TV was suspended by the Orioles, although they are not calling it a suspension. They refuse to refer to it as a suspension because he read stats about the team's play against Tampa Bay. Now, here's the thing. For those of you who aren't aware, media departments for Major League Baseball teams send out pregame statistic reports. They compile them. They're really impressive. The guys with the Astros really put together some amazing stuff. So before every game, usually a few hours before the game, you'll get a package that says when Dusty's availability is, and then you'll get a list of all these kind of interesting stats and figures for the game. So they did prep this package for Kevin Brown, and he read off the fact that in the last 10 years, the Orioles were 200 or something against the Rays. And then this year they had won 2 games. So they won as many games this year as they've won in the previous 10 seasons. And he brought that up. Well, apparently the Angelos family, which is, well known in baseball circles, formerly Peter, now I forget the guy's name, who's the owner. Now, basically, they suspended him, saying that it made them look cheap, right? John Angelos is the owner now. Now, first of all, John Angelos is cheap. So let's just put that to the side right now and forget about it. He is a cheap guy. He wants to be like the Tampa Bay Rays. They want to be able to win on, with a small budget. Okay, fine. No problem. So they suspend him. Now, this, by the way, comes after they had already suspended their I think it was last year, they fired their in-game announcer guy because he tweeted something they didn't like. They've also forced all of their media people to wear Orioles gear to every game, including the radio guys. Like, who cares what the radio guys are wearing? But like, one of them didn't wear it, and so he got suspended. And so Kevin Brown, even though he was suspended from TV, had to go do radio broadcast because some guy didn't wear his Orioles shirt. I mean, what a fiasco, man. I mean, I understand teams do some weird things, but this is just nonsense. This is idiocy. Petty. It's so petty. Like, what? And by the way, dear John Angelos, you think this makes you look better? You think this makes you look less cheap? I mean, this makes you look like a moron.
Yeah. Guess who's going to leave when they get a better offer? And Kevin Brown will get a better offer somewhere else because he's legit. He's good.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, I know you know this, but he's done ESPN basketball. He's done football. The guy is well educated in every sport out there. He's one of the kinder human beings I've met in the industry. And, I wouldn't consider him a friend, but he's definitely a coworker who I've asked questions of to get more information. He's come over and done the same thing to us. And there's so many things to unfold here. Our job, even on this podcast, we are just opening our voice and putting our voice into public arenas opens us to being canceled.
Yep.
This whole culture now is so sensitive to language, we can hardly speak. So we're already under the radar, under the microscope. That makes it hard enough as it is. And take it from a guy who's been in the principal's office several times from what I've said on air. It's not easy. So you do have to be delicate. You do have to understand. You have to think before you speak. A lot of what we do is reactionary, but at the same time, I'm mentally prepared to go into games and know what to say, hopefully, and not to say, hopefully. But to your point about him getting reprimanded, suspended is what it is. Let's be honest. I mean, there's no other word for it. I mean, let's not be a jackass about it.
Right.
He got suspended for literally. He stated facts.
Yeah, that's it.
Facts that were on a media sheet. These notes that you're talking about are provided by the ball club. And he actually was framing it and spoke beautifully to the fact that, look, in the past, it hasn't been pretty against the Tampa Bay Rays. Guess what? We're in first place and we're playing really good baseball, and our team is now beating the Rays. We should be excited about this series. Watch our team play the Tampa Bay Rays. It's great. And he gets suspended for that junk. That is pathetic, and that's sensitive. You're not watching the entire story. Somewhere, somehow, behind the scenes, John Angelos felt that he was being attacked or his team was being attacked, and he should be embarrassed thoroughly. And I think that's why we haven't seen a comment to rebut what's happening, because there is something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. But for that to be a reason to be suspended should freak every other announcer out for the rest of their broadcasting career, if that can happen that easily.
I mean, how sensitive do you have to be to get butthurt over a fact? I mean, it's just,
and your team is in first place. Pick a worse time to be an idiot.
Right. And by the way, this is the same team that fired John Miller once because he talked
greatest announcer of all time.
Because he talked about former players that they didn't want you to talk. Apparently there are former Orioles players who are off limits for discussion. Like, come on.
Blacklisted.
It's just, this is the kind of thing when you see it, this is the kind of thing where whenever people are like, oh, players want a bunch of money, I'm like, you know what? Let's talk about owners because, so many times we're like, oh, these millionaire players. I'm like, yeah, what about I remember Chris Rock had a great line. He was talking about the difference between rich and wealthy. He was like, Shaq is rich. the man who writes his checks is wealthy. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah.
and
There's
I feel
somebody giving him that money.
and
Yeah.
I'm like when you've got guys like, I mean, thank God we've got a good owner, you know, and really for the
Yes.
most part, good owners across the board in Houston, I think. But man, because when you have a bad one, ooh, man, it's not good. It is not good. So last thing I want to hit you with, because I could not let this one go without getting your opinion. Apparently last night we have college realignment fever occurring.
Oh, geez.
Like, it's insane. The Pac-12 is now the Pac-2, apparently. Only Oregon State and Washington State are left in the Pac-12. But here's one. Last night, Cal was one school who said they might move to, wait for it, the Atlantic Coast Conference. Your beloved Cal, Blummer, could be in the ACC. Can you imagine the travel schedule for Cal?
I don't want to. There's no way. How are you going to recruit? You're going to recruit kids and go, hey, man, we're in the ACC. This is awesome. We're going to play all these great teams. And then you're going to go, oh, by the way, we have to take 4.5 hour, 5 hour flights to go play them.
I mean,
screw that.
Look, the Big 12 is already stretching it by having both Colorado and West Virginia.
The ACC not saying anything. Like, wait, you want to bring them in? And I mean, let's be honest, they're a mediocre football team at best.
Right.
And you want me to now fly cross country in 3 hours of a time zone and go play these guys? Psh.
Well, never mind football. Think about all this, there's obviously all the smaller sports like lacrosse and whatever else.
That's expensive, by the way.
Yeah, right. There's all these, volleyball and, women's sports that are way bigger pain in the butt than football. But think about basketball for a minute. That's the one that, like, already you've got coaches, from other teams going, wait a minute, whoa. We've got like 50 games a year. You're telling me that, like, at least half a dozen, maybe more times a year, I'm going to have to fly across the country, or a team's going to fly across the country. I mean, man, the whole realignment thing in college is just stupid. Honestly, what they need to do is just have college realignment for football only. And then let the rest of the sports figure it out. Because you can't ask teams that are playing, like baseball playing a bunch of games, 50, 60 games a year, basketball playing 50, 60 games a year, volleyball, track and field, like any of these. You can ask these people that, never mind, they're not going to get on a private plane and fly across the country.
I mean,
they're going to be
really
stuck. I remember being stuck in an airport with a team from, like, I think it was the Maryland basketball team. They're just sitting around twiddling their thumbs. It's just awful. I couldn't help.
Yeah, I mean, no. I mean, you're telling me that, Virginia Tech and Duke and some of these teams are going to, I mean, what? I don't know.
Cal going to Duke is just in North Carolina. And, like, I mean, that just seems so unbelievably
demonstrative,
stupid.
Man. No, I'm with you. I thought, yeah. I mean, how do you recruit and tell? I mean, it's great to be in the ACC, but at the same time, like, you're going to tell these guys, you got to fly twice a week. You're going to have to go fly 4 or 5 hours. Or if you actually play like a Cal or a Stanford who are talking about going to the ACC, what if you go on a road trip? You're going to be gone for a week and a half. Think about the education if you want. I know most of these teams don't.
Especially Stanford. Well, most teams don't. Stanford certainly does. I mean,
you're going to travel tutors. Are you going to travel like professors? What the hell, man?
I don't know, dude.
Or are they just going to go like, the online, school and just travel for sports?
There is some enjoyment, though, in watching the implosion that is happening within college sports thanks to the NIL and
cap the portal and realign. Let's go.
I mean, it's kind of, the chaos alone is kind of fun. Like it feels I feel a little bit like the Joker, but nevertheless, it feels a little fun.
Did you hear about the poor kid at UCLA, the quarterback that showed up and he's like, "Where's all my NIL money? Oh, it's not here. I want to leave."
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Come on.
It's just ridiculous. All right, kids. Well, that was a good one. We had a lot to discuss today. Obviously, a lot's been happening. We haven't even talked about the Orioles. The Orioles, incredible story. And the Astros got to go in there and whoop some butt because they need to get some wins. They're 2.5 back of the Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
Is it 2.5? Did the Rangers win yesterday?
Man, I wrote this down yesterday too.
I didn't see it. It's fine. You were at the White House. I was recovering from vacation.
Yeah, I was say it was a little bit of a hangover all the way around.
I know, man.
Let me see. No, I got it right here. 3 games. Yeah, the Rangers won yesterday,
3.
so 3 games back.
Yeah. So, I'm just trying to get acclimated to the low altitude. Which, by the way, high altitude is no joke, bro.
Yeah, dude. Be careful.
Hiking in that high altitude is no messing around. You better drink all the water you can get.
Yep.
All right, Blummer. You're in Baltimore.
Yep.
I think, and then you're back after I think they're coming back right after the series, right?
Yeah. No, after the series, we got LA Angels on the weekend, but Baltimore, great bullpen, good offense, pretty good on defense, starting pitching, beat them early. That's the key. Beat them early.
That
starting
is exactly
pitching is
right.
not good.
That is exactly right. I'll tell you what, the Angels, after deciding that they weren't going to trade anyone, what are they like? They're like 0-6 or something, or 1-7.
They lost last night.
Man, that's just one of the stupidest run franchises. I mean, we're talking about the Orioles being stupid. Man, let's go ahead and acquire a bunch of talent, and then we're just going to go out and lose. Well, let's give up some of our prospects, and they're definitely losing Shohei Ohtani in the offseason. I mean,
oh, man.
Woof, man. So you want to botch something, that's the way to botch it. All right, guys, we'll be back later this week with another fresh pod brought to you by Bet Online. Hopefully we'll be doing better than the Angels at that point. Again, a huge thanks to all listeners and viewers everywhere across the world. I don't know if you saw it, Blummer, but the Astros fan UK was in Houston. This is about a little over a week ago. Came all the way to Houston, saw his first Astros series ever. So
that's pretty cool.
Good on you, Astros fan UK. That's pretty impressive. You guys are great, liking, subscribing, commenting. Keep it all up. Very thankful for you guys. Have a great week. And as always, go Astros.